Morning team. So I thought it would be kind of useful at the moment, particularly when we've been stuck at home, perhaps nearer to our fridges and cupboards than we might normally like to be. I thought it would be useful if I could talk you through the considerations that perhaps need to be made when we're deciding where we take our diet or our nutrition and the approach that we want to take to our nutrition health. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this into a three-part series. So we're going to have the considerations from the past, the considerations for the present, and the considerations for what your future choices, what you actually want to do. So what I'm going to do actually is take you through like a consultation process where I kind of ask or encourage you to think about the questions that I would ask you in a real live consultation, so that you can sort of see the background work that goes into making that choice for your nutrition. So it's really, rather than thinking about diets and picking a particular diet, these questions are designed to make you think about the lifestyle considerations, the health considerations, and hopefully it will help you to make a more informed choice when it comes to picking certain foods or food groups and that sort of thing. So if you have a pen and paper, that might be quite useful. What I will release after I finish these videos, because I'm doing this live at the moment, what I'll release is a link to a PDF that will have all of the questions and then boxes where you can fill that in. I've not, unfortunately, been organised enough to get that to you before I film the videos today, but that will be available after the videos have been recorded and uploaded. So if you have a pen and paper and you're kind of joining in live right now, then just get that handy. And if you're watching this recorded after the fact, then you might be able to download the PDF and print that out to use that as part of a resource to go alongside this video. So the consultation process, like I mentioned before, we really want to consider what has gone on in your past, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So today's video is just going to be about the past considerations. In the next two videos that I make over the next week or so, that will look at what you're doing right now and also what you want to do and the changes that you might want to make in your future to kind of manifest the health and nutrition that you want to be achieving right now. So but some of the, I'm not going to necessarily ask these questions in any particular order, but these are some of the considerations that you maybe need to make when you look back at your past, because your past can help to inform, obviously it can help guide you to, oh, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing now, and this is why I might want to change what I do in the future. Apologies, I'm a bit sniffy. I've got hay fever and it's hay fever season, so the tablets and the nasal spray aren't working at the moment. So if I snip and sneeze, I'm very sorry. I know it's disgusting, but I can't help it. I'm allergic to being outside. So on the topic of allergies, that is one of the things that I would definitely ask when it came to a nutrition consultation. So I would ask my client or my patient or my person that I was talking to, do you have any tested known allergies or intolerances? So that could be things like, even if it's not relevant to nutrition, allergies are still useful to know about, just to be on the safe side, have like a medical health history. So that could be things like gluten or dairy or wheat or fish or nuts or anything like that. Because if we're designing a nutrition plan together, if I turn around to you and say, but let's make a really nice banana and nut loaf for your breakfast, and you might go, but Nicola, I'm allergic to bananas, I'm allergic to nuts, so there's loads of different recipes and ideas that we can think of to make. But if you're allergic to certain things, I can obviously start to filter out those things and guide you toward alternatives that aren't going to put you in any danger when you eat them. So one thing to bear in mind about these intolerance tests, so this is quite a popular thing at the moment in 2020 and 2019, to kind of send your blood or your spit or whatever it is off to a lab to get it tested to see if you have certain sensitivities or intolerances to certain foods. And really at the moment, there really isn't the kind of accuracy that is needed to really draw a strong conclusion from those tests. I've seen quite a lot of evidence where people have sent off like 3 or 4 different tests to the same lab under different names and got 3 or 4 different versions of their analysis done. So there just isn't actually the kind of reliability at the moment to completely take those as as law. Yes, they're going to give us a bit of guidance. They might point us in a direction of choosing foods that our bodies might like to or might tolerate better on that day, but it really is a day by day thing. Our bodies have different kind of levels of sensitivity day by day by day, so we can't necessarily rely on a test like that to tell us exactly what to do for the rest of our lives. It can be something useful and interesting to do, but maybe take it with a pinch of salt and don't just rely on that to tell you everything. For example, if it tells you that you're sensitive to dairy on the day that you're tested, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a dairy intolerance or a dairy allergy. It's just something that was going on in your body that day. And again, I don't know if this is relevant to you, but with hay fever, I'm allergic to certain types of pollen or grass or something. I'm not really sure. After all these years, I've still got no idea what I'm allergic to. But there's different levels of symptoms on different days. So this could potentially be related to like nutritional allergies or not allergies, but intolerances or sensitivities, where we say, okay, just because my symptoms were slightly higher on this day doesn't mean that I can't tolerate a small amount or a really high quality version of that particular food. So just something to bear in mind, just when you're thinking about those intolerances or sensitivities, just to take it with a pinch of salt and just be careful with what you assume from these tests and things. Okay, so the next thing I might move on to in a consultation is asking about someone's dieting history. So dieting or nutrition, I'm kind of using the word diet synonymously with nutritional approach. So it's not so much, what diets have you done, although that is actually relevant as well. It's more like, what are the approaches that you've taken in the past, and also have you then followed specific diets related to that? Because not all of us have gone down the path of doing kind of the well-known dieting modalities. Some of us have just kind of floated through and picked up on different ideas as we've heard them online or offline or wherever we heard it in the newspaper. So it'll be interesting from a point of view to kind of get that history written down. So, it might be worth tracking it all the way back to the first time that you became aware that you wanted to make a change with your nutrition. And you can say, right, okay, when I was, 15 or 16, 18, 20, whenever that age was, when I was this age, I tried, reducing my carbohydrates. And then when I was 25, I then tried to lower my fats. Try and track it like that, so you can start to see, how many times you've been trying to change your nutrition, and which times potentially were successful and which times didn't work for you, which times maybe didn't work because you weren't ready for it, that kind of thing. So tracking roughly back through your years and looking at, what did you do? Was it successful? How did it make you feel? I know that's going to be quite hard to remember, but just as much as you can remember, write it down and start to create that history, so that if you're ever talking to someone that is going to guide you in nutrition, they can see all the things that you have done before, which will be relevant in informing what we're doing today and in the future. So kind of tied into that is, have you ever removed certain food groups? So have you ever completely cut out carbohydrates or sugar or fats or proteins or meat or dairy or anything like that? So just, again, looking at the choices that you've made, and kind of maybe digging in a little bit into the psychology behind that as well. Okay, I see here that you cut out gluten. Why did you do that? What was the kind of thought process behind doing that? And again, obviously this would be a to and fro conversation with someone that I was talking to, so I know that you can't respond to me right now, but I'd kind of be guiding you down that path of trying to understand what your thinking process would have been when you decided to make that choice. Okay. And then I'd also kind of dig into a little bit around, do you have any kind of strongly held views about food or food choices? So this could be anything from, again, aligning with a particular diet program, aligning with a particular way of eating. It could be, again, just me trying to understand you better and understand the strength of your views and how much kind of wiggle room we've got to make changes in there. Because realistically, when someone comes to me for a consultation, they want something to change. People don't just come and talk to me about food. Well, actually they do come and talk about food for no reason at all. But when they're coming to me for a consultation, they generally want something to be different about their lifestyle, about their choices. So I need to kind of gauge how much wiggle room we have inside the choices that you're happy with and the things that you are okay with changing, versus the things that that are never going to change for you and that you're going to stick with no matter what. So, for example, are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? Are you pescatarian? Are you an omnivore? What is it? What are your nutrition values and the things that you that are going to stick around pretty much forever, versus is there a bit of wiggle room to say, okay, can we maybe consider this? How open are you to actually making some changes? So again, it'll just be kind of probing into that, and it's from a completely non-judgmental point of view. It's just from the point of view of me saying, okay, what is possible in the realm of what we're trying to do? Because it's pointless for me saying to a vegan, let's consider bringing some fish and meat into your nutrition, because it's just not something they're going to consider. So I've got to kind of gauge and then respect the views that you have and whoever I'm working with, and make sure that I am supporting your views and supporting your values, because your values are there because they're important to you, and if it's important to you, then it's important to me as your coach. Okay, so that's something that is really quite important to bear in mind. And alongside that, it's also important to gauge whether you've ever kind of gone down the route of having an eating disorder or kind of undergone disordered eating. So an eating disorder is a kind of clinically diagnosed thing, like anorexia, bulimia, and that sort of thing, or binge eating disorder, for example. So that would be something that has been perhaps diagnosed by your doctor or a functional medicine doctor or something like that, where where you've actually had the label of an eating disorder applied to you. Whereas disordered eating tends to tie in with dieting and restrictive eating, where the kind of the structure that you've tried to follow has kind of almost taken over your life in a way that's impacting your psychology, your emotional choices. For example, an example of disordered eating might be something like, you've been invited out to a party, and the party involves like a 3-course meal or something like that with drinks, and you feel paralyzed because that doesn't fit in with the modality that you've chosen. You can't see how a 3-course meal will fit into your points or your sins or your calories or your macros, and it kind of stops you from socializing, it stops you from enjoying your life. So it's kind of where the rules have kind of taken over a bit too much, and got you into a state where you don't have the kind of freedom, flexibility, adaptability to make choices that include social events and occasions, and potentially also that you kind of maybe on some days don't eat a lot at all, other days you go in for a bit too much food. So any kind of disordered version of how can we call it, a normal eating pattern that doesn't that even exist anymore? I'm not really sure, but you know what I mean. Kind of it's disordered compared to what we would normally expect most people to be doing when it comes to making healthy nutritional choices. So again, just getting into the background and the psychology of that, if that is relevant for you as an individual. So it's also relevant to understand and also to kind of get into the education of how yo-yo dieting impacts the metabolism and impacts your kind of the psychology behind the choices that you're making. So if, again, this would only be relevant if someone had told me in the previous questions that they had been dieting and that they had been using restricted eating practices to potentially to lose weight or to improve their health, whatever the goal might be. I would then dig a little bit deeper and kind of, again, maybe go back to that initial question that we asked, about, where the dieting history, basically. So when you were 20, you did a crash diet, you lost 10 pounds, and then you moved on to the next one, you kind of gained weight again, and then you lost 10 pounds again. Have you gone through this kind of up and down yo-yo cycle for most of your life or a part of your life? And again, it's just I'd probably bring in a link here to one of my other courses that I've recorded that is all about why diets fail and why diets potentially very possibly aren't really working for you, and kind of what direction you want to go in. So that could really go nicely hand in hand with this series actually. I'll kind of signpost you over to that series if you are still kind of digging in with the idea that a diet is the thing that you need to do, and it's just that you haven't found the right one yet. It may be that kind of doing that course alongside this one where we're talking about nutrition consultations, that might be a nice way to kind of pad out your education about these things, and kind of improve your understanding of yourself and your body and your choices. So again, have you been a yo-yo dieter, and if so, how often has that been happening, and when was the last time you did it, and that sort of thing. So again, that was the kind of thing I'd like you to kind of note down and use as part of the information that we take forward into the next stage. Okay, and then kind of aligned with that is the level of understanding and education that you as an individual have about nutrition in general. So I need to gauge for each individual that I consult with whether you have an understanding of what calories are, what macronutrients are, how to balance a plate, how to kind of arrange a portion size to suit your own individual size and shape and goals. I have some people that come to me for nutrition consults that kind of, they all they really need is to be given a set of numbers to target, and they go away and they do that. That's absolutely fine. They understand how the process works. Then they done it before. They understand how calories and macros and all that kind of works together to kind of achieve those numbers, and they just want an actual number goal. Other people, when they come to me, they've never really considered nutrition from that point of view before. So a calorie is something they've heard of, but they're not really relating it to their actual food and how it impacts their body. So again, I have to gauge that with each individual. For example, if I was working with you, I'd just chat to you a little bit, and I'd probably ask you, can you draw me maybe what your kind of plate of food looks like in the morning, lunchtime, and evening, and I'd maybe look at kind of the kind of proportions on the plate in terms of just to gauge your understanding of proportionality and what a healthy plate looks like, and also what portion size you think is right for you, and what you've been doing up to now. So again, I need to pitch the information that I give to you and guide you with at a level that you feel suits your current understanding, because it's kind of pointless me throwing loads of nutritional fancy sciencey terms at you if it just makes you feel a bit kind of baffled. So what I try and do is make sure I kind of meet you where you're at, and then bring you along with kind of an educational approach that bit by bit, week by week, we kind of look at different concepts with nutrition, and I try to help you understand how that all relates to your body, because the ultimate goal I have with anyone that I consult with is that eventually they feel confident to kind of fly the nest and eventually start to do the nutrition for themselves. But there's obviously a process in between there where I try and educate you as much as possible, so that when you decide that you want to leave or that you need to leave, you have the tools and the knowledge to take forward into that next step, so that you can actually make your own choices without feeling lost and confused about nutrition. Because one thing for sure is that it's very, very easy to get lost and confused, particularly if you're Googling things, particularly if you're looking online. If you can basically find anything, any fact online, and it's getting to the point now where we're really not actually sure if these are these true, are these false, is this hearsay, is this fake news. It's really, really quite difficult to know which path to go and who to trust. So just bearing that in mind, again, I will always try and educate you to a point, but I can only do that to the point that I've been educated to myself. So, just from a point of view of me giving you a reassurance, I will always make sure that I am as up to date as possible in terms of nutrition. But again, for you as a client or a a patient, wherever you're coming to me from, and I need to make sure that you feel comfortable questioning me if you've seen something like online or on social media or on a website or a TV program. I really want you to come to me and say, okay, Nicola, I've heard this thing that contradicts what you said. Could you explain? Can you make sense of this for me? Can you talk me through it and kind of help me understand why these two things are different, and why you're saying something different to the TV or whatever? So it's just making sure that you feel comfortable and confident questioning everything all the time, so that you are sure and confident about the things that you are doing, because this is your health and your well-being. This is your goals that we're working towards together. So I want to make sure that you are completely happy with the changes and choices that we are making. So Vimy is saying that is true about the questions online facts. Yes, definitely. So I was listening to something this morning from David Mitchell. He's got a book called The Dishonesty is the next best policy, or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. I've been listening to the audiobook, and he was basically talking about how facts, people aren't really believing facts anymore, because there are such a spectrum of the same fact that we can have 100 different versions of the same fact. So how do we know which version of that fact is actually the real fact? I've said fact quite a lot now. I'm going to stop saying fact. So anyway, just bear that in mind. Ask questions. If you're not sure, ask your coach. If it's not me, then ask your coach. Just make sure that they are able to answer your question satisfactorily. You know what I mean? To the point where you feel clear and that you understand what you need to do and what the best choice is for you. Okay. And then other things I'd collect from your history is your training history and your medical history. So I would kind of collect all that information and I'd gather it all together. I'd read through it a few times. I'd make some notes on it after you had gone. And then I'd obviously then start to move you toward talking about your present habits and the things you are doing now. So I'm not going to cover that today. I'm going to stop this one now. So we've covered the past. We've covered how to, the considerations that we need to make in terms of your past choices, and we'll move on in the next video to looking at the present decisions that you're making, the choices that you're making, and the feelings that you're having, and how to link that into the future changes that you want to make. So if you have any questions, do pop them in the comments box, either YouTube or Facebook, and I'll be getting this video over to you onto my online courses website. That'll be part 1 of this 3 or 4 part series. So do tune in for the next one, and I'll be talking about the next steps when it comes to nutrition. So if you haven't made notes today, I'd encourage you to go back to this video at some point in the future, download the PDF. It will be available very soon, and that will be printable, so you can make notes in the boxes and kind of, almost kind of consult with me via video. And if you do have any specific questions that you kind of want to bounce off me, just get in touch. I really appreciate your time today. I hope you found this useful and insightful, and I hope it kind of helps you to inform your choices on where to take your nutrition for a healthier and happier and more confident approach for your nutrition health. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.